Hey everybody, ronarray here, and in 3.26 there's a lot of good farming strategies currently going around. So in this video I wanted to showcase a tried and true strategy which is pretty easy to do, requires only one type of scarab, and can provide a very decent amount currency. You can do it also in tier 16 maps. So you'll be able to farm like tier 16.5 and tier 17 maps in the process too. And that way you're still going to receive guaranteed currency all the time when you're finishing every map, which feeling absolutely amazing. That strategy been pretty popular in 3.25 and I did a video about that. But in 3.26 it still stays pretty viable. So let's go and I will be able to explain what you need to do and how the whole strategy is working. Now, let's talk about strategy itself. It's very simple and you will need only one scarab, which is very cheap and very accessible. Generally, it's just divination scarab of the cloister, and you can use 5 of them in your map device because the limit is 5. That way, I usually recommend to use all 5 of them, is just like divination scarab of the cloisters and nothing else. Those scarabs are pretty cheap, they cost from 4 to 5 chaoses, depends on how often you're buying, and most of the time the setup itself is very easy. You're going to pay only like 25 chaoses per map. Even if the price is going to go a little higher, it's still going to be insanely profitable. So those scarabs are giving you area contains additional packs of the Elder Devoted, and they have chance to drop a stack deck. It's going to happen very often, and you're going to get a lot of stack decks from every map, when stack decks are more expensive than chaoses right now, so it should provide a very decent profit. I will be able to calculate my average map a little later in that video. Right now, let's talk about how we are going to scale our amount of stack decks together with amount of the Elder Devoted. For that, we are going to use a pretty specific atlas. So here's my atlas that I'm using for decks. Currently, there's nothing else except like rituals, harvest, and as many map modifier effects as you can get. I'm also taking basic stuff such as Eldritch Gaze and bonuses for Ether. You can take, if you like, you can take Syrian Exarchs, there's not a lot of differences between those. But most of the time, you just need to make sure that you're going to have a harvest in that map, because it's going to pay for a map itself and for your scarabs. Ritual, because ritual is going to give you additional monsters, so it's just going to resurrect your Elder Devoted, and they're going to drop stack decks again. And you will block everything else, because that way it will be much easier to ensure that we have both ritual and harvest. So for the atlas, I'm taking all chances for harvest here, I'm taking all chances for harvest here, and harvest bonuses right here too. For the ritual, I'm only taking chances, and up there we have like occult devotion. Your maps with ritual altars always have 4 ritual altars. So that way, 4 altars, more chances for decks, and usually it's very comfortable. Another important and interesting part, we can take like additional ritual chance right here just in case, and take all map modifiers effects. Map modifiers effects is going to raise your pack size for your map, and pack size is the only important stat that you want to get on your maps. So getting like quantity right here is not really important, because the main thing that's going to scale your profit is pretty much pack size itself. So I'm taking all bonuses for pack size that I can. If you're feeling like maps like that could be a little too hard for you, you can drop some explicit modifiers bonuses over here, like Chisel Perfection. Your profit is going to be lower, but maps themselves that you're running are going to be significantly easier for you to run, which is pretty important too. I'm also blocking everything except obviously Harvest, Ritual, and I'm not blocking Ultimatum, mostly because Ultimatum scarabs can cost a lot and I still want them to drop. That whole atlas created with only 113 just like points in mind, so you don't need anything else. I'm taking June just in case, because I think June could be a nice additional profit, but I'm not over focusing on that. If you want to add even more June and get like even more additional profit, I never calculated June there, you can also take like Lethal Extraction, it could be pretty nice. And I still recommend to take Remarkable Relics, because scarabs found in your maps are most likely to be less common varieties, could be a nice additional profit on top of what we already receiving. Now, let's talk about what kind of map we will need for it. So, generally, I recommend to run something very small when all monsters are going to spawn close to each other, because that way we will have much bigger chances to spawn monsters just inside the ritual. And every time when our pack is spawned inside the ritual, we are going to receive more stack decks. So, generally, running something like Toxic Sewer or just Massa, for example, is going to be good, because like on the sides, Massa is pretty small as well, and most of the monsters are going to spawn inside the rituals. Generally, any kind of maps like that are pretty good. So your basic map, if you're not sure about your build, should look like that. Approximate monster pack size should be at least 20%. Keep that in mind, because if your pack size is going to be lower, your profit is going to fall off. So that map would be absolutely alright, you can corrupt it on top and make sure that you have quality as well. But if you want to have more profit, going for something like that is a better idea. As you can see, pack size here 34%, so that map could provide even better profit. So if your build is strong enough, if you're feeling alright fighting the monsters and you don't have any issues, I recommend to go for as high pack size as possible. You can also run like 8 mod corrupted maps, but I don't really recommend to buy them, because that's additional way how you're going to spend your money, which is not very good, because the strategy created with the simple idea that you're just going to focus and run it as fast as possible. And that way, going for something basic, even like that, you're still going to receive a decent profit. I'm usually just coloring my maps and corrupting them myself, checking out which ones are alright with the red jigs, and just following on that. That depends on your build, but most of the time, like, look at the modifiers and make sure that you can finish it at least. So after you created that, everything else is pretty simple. You're just using all 5 divination scarabs of the cloister, you're using Forsaken Quarters, like here's a map, and that's it. As a bonus up here, I'm usually just taking quantity, because in my opinion, it's not really worth to invest even more into that. It's already providing very steady and very nice profit, and I wouldn't bother too much just with a basic setup. So I calculated my profit usually using basic maps with around 25% pack size. If you will go further, like 35, 40, you're probably going to receive even more profit, which is pretty great. Talking about maps, there's also another important reason why I prefer Massa over maps like Toxic Sewers. I think the profit in Massa should be a little smaller, but it's much easier to survive in such maps. Because otherwise, if you pick a very small map, there's a chance that monsters are just going to overwhelm you. So it's not going to feel that great. That way, just picking the maps that not too big, but still not small, so monsters will not just like shut you down, it's a pretty great idea. And I think Massa is working perfectly for it, or maps like Strand, for example. So after one normal Massa that I completed with that strategy, here how my loot pretty much looks. I have almost 60 stack decks, which is absolutely amazing. Most of the time you should get at least 40 of those, and the highest number should be around 70, but usually I'm receiving like 55 or 60 stack decks on average. And together with that, you also should receive about 1000 life force from Harvest. That's pretty fast to do, and there should be any issues with that. It's going to be an additional profit that's going to pay for your scarabs and maps themselves. If you will be able to push the maps with higher pack size, I have a very basic map right here with only almost 40% pack size. If you will be able to push it higher for like 50 or 60, you're going to receive more stack decks as well, because pack size is the main stat right here, that scaling amount of the enemies and amount of the decks that they are going to drop. Right now, if you just open the Fostus and check the prices of stack decks, one divine was about 114 stack decks, and that way, if you're dropping like almost 60 a map, you will be able to get a divine like right after 2 maps with that strategy. And the only thing that you will need to pay is pretty much the price of scarabs. So if you will look at the scarabs right now, their price is pretty low as well. One scarab costs only approximately like 4 or 5 chaoses. I'm usually calculating them as 5. Since you will need a full set, you're going to pay about 20-25 chaoses for the full set of scarabs right here. Since you are receiving about 1,000 life force on average, it could be any life force, it could be like wild, it could be vivid, any kind of type. You will be able to get like 15 to 17, 20 chaoses per just life force. And the rest of the bubblegum, such as like Orb of Fusion, for example, or like Orb of Scoring, is going to pay for the rest of the scarabs. So just like life force, bubblegum, paying for your scarabs, and your stack decks is just basic and pure profit, which leading you to getting 1 divine every 2 maps while following that strategy. Here is the second map that I completed with that. So right here I have 51 stack deck, which is a little lower than the previous one, but that's generally a normal number too, because stack decks are going to be randomly jump between like 40 and 60, mostly just how lucky you will be with just like spawning rituals and how good it's going to work. Sometimes you're going to drop like divine or wild puzzle boxes. I dropped both that map, but I think I just got lucky. Most of the time you're just focusing on decks and on your part of the harvest. Harvest also will jump between like 600 up to 1,500 based on what exactly you rolled. But with a proper pack size, it should be a nice additional bonus, which still going to pay for most of your scarabs. That way, making your stack decks a pure profit again. And another important question to address is why that strategy could be not for everyone. So generally, monsters that going to be spawned from those scarabs has a very annoying feature. It's pretty much a proximity shield around the monsters themselves. So you need to make sure that your build will be able to kill them properly. Usually you can do that by staying at a distance and waiting until the proximity shield breaks, or you can jump into proximity shield and just like try kill them in the process. However, they're dealing pretty decent damage, especially in like high rolled maps or 8 mod maps. And if you took all explicit modifiers in your tree, monsters here could be pretty strong. So make sure that you're tuning strategy like down or up based on how well your build is performing. So if you feel like monsters are feeling too strong, drop explicit modifiers and roll maps better according to what your build needs. Also, don't jump in immediately. You can also keep like the distance a little, so monsters will go out of proximity shields and you will be able to kill them in more safer way in general. All of that should be helpful, but most of the time your build should be able to farm the strategy without too big of an issue if you progressed enough. And as you can see right here, I had a pretty decent amount of stack decks. I've been farming them for at least 1-2 days already, and I think it's pretty profitable right now to recommend to everybody, because it's been very profitable before, and I think it's going to be profitable the next league if GG is not going to change a lot. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope your farm is going to be great as well. See you next time, and ronarray out.